Okay, hi again. Ignore the noise going on outside the studio. There's a bit of maintenance going on. But yesterday I threw some enclosed forms for an upcoming pit firing workshop that I'm doing. So today we're going to turn them before I can manipulate and carve them. So to turn them we have to throw a chuck because they're not going to balance upside down on their noses. Might be a bit tricky. So we're going to throw a chuck to trim them all inside. So we'll just go through that process. So a chuck is just doesn't have to have a base in it. You can recycle the clay after you're finished, or you can keep it and let it get leather hard and wrap it up in plastic, or even let it go bone dry. I've often done that and reuse them. When they get a bit tatty, then I just recycle them. So I'll just throw one today and we'll go through that process and see how we go. Fingers crossed. Okay, so I'll pop the... So we're just going to centre the clay and do everything the same as per usual. Okay, so I also want to throw it with a bit of thicker sides so that it's got enough strength to carry the weight of the pots, because obviously the clay is going to be soft, so it's not going to be a really thin rimmed kind of vessel. So allow yourself a little bit more clay than you normally would. So we'll just centre as per usual. You want to have it centred so that you can centre your pot in it as well. I wanted to have a bit of a wide base. Okay, and I'll just open it up as per usual, but I'm going to take it all the way through to the wheel head. And just open it up. So I'm just going to bring my finger towards myself. I'm still supporting it from the outside here as I bring it across so it doesn't kind of get wobbly out of control. Bring it up a little bit higher. Now I'm just going to stop it at that point and just measure it on my pots. Just drying. Cleaning my hands. Sorry about if it's in front of the camera. Alright, because at this point now I can, alter the opening for whatever it is that I need. Now because my pot is shaped kind of like this, I'm also, and they all are, I'm going to give it a tapered opening so that it'll fit, all of my pots. So when I look at that, that's too big, so I'm going to make it a bit smaller because I've got ones that are even smaller than that. So, that's just not going to fit. So I'm going to bring it a bit smaller and then I'm going to taper it out so that potentially it will, so I'm just going to bring that in. I'll still go full speed, so I'm going to bring that in. And then I'm going to taper it out so that I've got a smaller section in here than here. This bit's smaller than this bit, so that it will fit a variety of different sizes. That's the plan anyway. And I'm going to compress that rim so it's not too thin. Just clean my hands again. see how that kind of fits, and that's good to go now. And it should fit some of my smaller ones as well. It is still very wet, however, and I've created a vacuum, which means that, you know, there's no air getting out. So what I'm going to do, so that I can get rid of that vacuum, is I'm just going to make a little hole inside. And I kind of heard all that air pop out then, and it's much easier then to get out. Cool. Now I'm just going to try that on one of my smaller ones just to make sure it's the right size before I kind of start. This one's the smallest one, so let's check it on the smallest one. Okay, it's too big for the smallest one, but I'm not going to alter it because that is my smallest one. I'm not going to alter it because the clay is still soft, so when I get up to doing that smallest one, I'm going to be able to change the shape of it anyway. So it's not imperative that I do it now, because that is the smallest one. Okay, so now I don't have a lot of trimming to do here, because remember I took a lot of it off yesterday, but I just do want to take a little bit off. It's still a little bit too thick, not a lot though. And this, I'm using recycled clay, so it's left this behind, but I'll be able to wipe that off. So there's no dramas there. This has done that because it's an enclosed form and there's air trapped inside there. So if I give that a little pierce, because you know you have to have, you can't have anything enclosed in the kiln, it will explode, so I have to put a hole in it anyway. So I'm just going to run my tool through there, and I could hear the air sizzle out of that, and that'll just compress down, which is fine. Alright, I'm just going to get it centered in the chuck, and that's pretty good. Cool. Okay, it's touching my fingers evenly all the way around, so it's good to go. If your piece is centered to start with, it of course makes it much easier to re-center when it comes time to turning, but if it's not quite centered, you're just basically going for close enough. But this one's good to go. I'm not going to be, as I said, I'm not going to do a lot of turning on it. Doesn't need a lot. Just even out the shape. I want to round it off too. I don't want to flat, because these are more organic sorts of shapes. So I don't necessarily want a flat base like you would have on a bowl, because then that will enable me to, when I create a base for it, maybe I'll put it on a bit of an angle or something, so that the point part of the pot is kind of facing on an angle. So rounding off my base will enable me to do that. And that's it. That's all I'm going to do there. I'm going to get rid of those little tool marks, because remember I made the rest of this one, well, if you don't remember, if you haven't seen it, go back and have a look, but I smoothed off all of this with a metal scraper, because I want to be able to burnish. So because I want to burnish, it's just easier if I don't have all of those lines from the throwing rings and from the tool. And I can't see my metal scraper anywhere, so that's alright. I'm just going to smooth them off with my, they must be around here somewhere, but where? I'll have to get up and get one before I do my next pot. Maybe for now I'll just use the side of this tool just to smooth it off, just for now, just to get rid of those tool marks. Okay, that'll do. Okay, and that is it. And now I can take that out of the chuck, because I made that little vacuum hole there earlier. I'll be able to clean this up, sit that on my board, and go for my next one, which is a bit of a different shape. It's kind of wider around the belly, but it should fit in here fine as well. because of that tapered side that I made. So that fits in there perfectly fine. So I'm good to go and do exactly the same process. And then if I have one that's slightly too big or slightly too small, I can just change the shape of it because this clay is still soft. So that is it for that video. Now this one is called a chuck because your piece goes inside it. Another one is called a chum. If you've got perhaps a long necked vase but it's a wider neck, you can make a solid cone or hump of clay and put your pot over the top of it. So that's a chum. Okay, alright, so the next video in this series will be about manipulating and then carving and burnishing these pieces. So I better get my skates on. So, see you next time. If you're watching this on YouTube, like, subscribe, share, all that kind of jazz. If you're on Instagram, same thing. Facebook as well, same thing. Okay, thanks for your support. Bye.